Listen, here I am, drinking my coffee, flipping through old archive papers, and I'm thinking, why do we always ignore the really interesting stuff? I mean, seriously, what do we actually know about punishments in the old days? Executions, torture, burning at the stake. It all feels so far away and terrifying. But I stumbled on something. Just listen. This is quiet horror with a human face. And here's the kicker. It happened right in their own backyards. The neighbor, not some executioner. Can you picture that? An iron mask with a gag. No, not that one from the movie about the Iron Mask. A different one. A woman's mask. It was called a Scold's Bridle. Scold's Bridle. And in Scotland, just Branks. Source. The bridle first appears in documents from 1567 in Edinburgh and in 1574 in Glasgow. The oldest surviving mask dates back to 1633 and hangs in the Church of Walton-on-Thames, Surrey County. Engraved on it is the inscription, "Chester gives Walton a bridle to curb women's tongues that chatter too much." Of course, men donate a piece of iron to the town and they call it charity. Yeah, right. Welcome to the Archive of Hidden Facts with a Smile. Today's segment, Hidden Facts in History, 10th, 19th century. I'm about to tell you something that will make you put down your cup. We're opening the folder on The Iron Mask That Spoke for You. Okay, so the standard schoolbook version goes like this. Women in the old days were punished for gossiping. And that's IT. No names, no dates, no mechanics, just, it was scary, but we're different. Like, she talked too much, they put an iron mask on her, she walked around the square, and she was free. Classic nonsense. As if this was some kind of amusement ride to lift people's spirits. Oh, sure. Women just casually put iron with a sharp gag in their mouths and went on a little sightseeing tour around town. Look at me, how cheerfully I stay silent while dying of thirst. But you and I are smarter than that. We know that there was a system behind this. And this system, in England, Scotland, Ireland, even in Protestant America, operated for decades. Source. In England and Wales, there was a criminal offense called common scold. A woman could be found guilty simply for habitually quarreling with her neighbors. And the definition was so vague that it could cover anything. Loud talking, talking back to her husband, defending a friend. Convenient, isn't it? A law that works against you before you've even opened your mouth. Okay, let's take this step by step. Get ready. This is about to get interesting. Listen, the first story starts in Scotland, 1567. The city of Edinburgh. Source. The 1911 Encyclopedia Britannica states directly, the Branks was used in Edinburgh in 1567 and in Glasgow in 1574. In Glasgow Castle, they still keep that very same Branks, an iron mask that was locked onto a woman's head. But this isn't just a muzzle. Inside, an iron plate with a sharp spike, a gag. It went into the mouth and pressed down on the tongue. The size of the plate is roughly 5 by 2.5 centimeters. Imagine a piece of metal the size of a matchbox inside your mouth. If she tried to speak, the iron cut into her tongue. Nice little language trainer, huh? Who needs a speech therapist? Here's an archival record from Newcastle, 1655. I quote, "The woman was led through the streets by court officers, holding a rope attached to a device called the Branks, an iron crown fitted over the head and face, with a large iron tongue inserted into her mouth so that it drew blood. This isn't gossip. This is maiming. And for what? For arguing publicly with a neighbor, for laughing too loud, for disrespect toward her husband. A Quaker preacher named Dorothy Waugh was subjected to the same punishment in Carlisle in 1655. She wrote about it, and her testimony survived. Now here comes the pure physiology. Prolonged compression of the tongue and jaw triggers a reflex spasm in the throat. A person can't even swallow their own saliva. Suffocation begins. Meaning, the punishment could end in death, from her own bodily fluids. Not a single blow, just iron and time. Horrifying, isn't it? So, do you still want to learn about your great-grandmother's history? Now pay attention. It wasn't enough just to put the iron on. The woman, bound, in the mask, with the gag in her mouth, was paraded through the streets. Sometimes they tied her to a stocks. Sometimes they sat her in a cart with a sign, "I am a gossip, punish me." And sometimes they hung a bell around her neck. Source: with this cage on her head and the gag pressed tightly against her tongue, the miserable creature was led through the streets, pulled by a chain held by a town crier, a bailiff, or a constable. That's how an eyewitness described the punishment in 1731. And here is where neuroscience kicks in. Public humiliation for the brain feels exactly like physical pain. The same brain regions light up, so she suffered just as much as if she had been beaten. But no bruises. Legally, it was considered a lenient punishment. In reality, torture through social exclusion. Good job, ancestors. Seriously. You invented a way to torture someone without leaving a single mark on their body. Modern lawyers would have applauded. In 1655, the city records of Newcastle contained this entry. The iron tongue was inserted into her mouth, so that it drew blood. And yes, the woman's name? Doesn't matter. There were hundreds of them. And men? If they were quarrelsome, they got a fine. Or nothing at all, of course. Listen to this another form of punishment. Not just the mask, but a whole performance. They would put a woman on a cart, or on a donkey. Source: in 1809, in Leominster, England, a woman named Jenny Pipes, known as a common scold, was paraded through town on a cucking stool, and then ducked in the River Lug. And in 1817, another woman from the same town, Sarah Leake, got the same sentence, but the pond was too shallow. So they just wheeled her around town in a chair and let her go. Lucky Sarah. A near miss. On wheels. And sometimes they added a bell to the mask. Source: for additional humiliation, a bell could be attached to the bridle to attract a crowd. Picture this. A woman walks by, iron in her mouth, tongue bleeding, drool down her chin, and around her bells jingling. Like a carnival. Children laugh. Neighbors spit. Archaeological fact. The Branks from Dunotar, Scotland, held in the University of Aberdeen collection under inventory number ABDUA 18700. Dates from time 1600 to 1800. It's an iron mask with hinged plates that locked around the head from behind. 3 centuries. The same instrument. And all that time women kept quiet. Okay, now for the nastiest part. The legal justification. In England, there was a crime with a fancy name, common scold, a public nuisance. Source: it was defined as a troublesome and angry person who breaks the peace by habitually quarreling with their neighbors. Most of the punished were women. Men could also be labeled scolds, but that almost never happened. The verdict was given by a local judge, no jury, men, of course. Who else? And the punishments varied. A fine, the ducking stool, or the Branks. Source: none of the physical punishments were applied after 1817, following the case of being paraded through the streets. In 1829, in Washington, D.C., a woman was fined for being found a common scold. Oh, of course. In the capital of the United States, just 50 years after the Declaration of Independence, a woman gets fined for excessive talkativeness. Democracy, huh? Source: the crime of common scold was officially abolished in England and Wales in times 1967. Section 131A of the Criminal Law Act, 1967. In New Jersey in times 1972. Yes, you heard that right. The 20th century. London, miniskirts, the Beatles, and you could still theoretically be punished under the Scold law. It wasn't used, but it hung there in the legal code. So when your grandmother was listening to the Rolling Stones, the iron mask was still a legal instrument of punishment. How's that for a fun fact? Now, let's fly across the ocean. Massachusetts, 1636. The first mention of the ducking stool in American court records dates to this year. In colonial America, they used both the ducking stool and the Branks. In Connecticut, a record survives. Elizabeth, wife of John, for swearing and fighting with a neighbor, received 1 hour in the Branks on the market square. No last name, but the fact was recorded. 1 hour, with an iron tongue depressor in her mouth, in full view of the entire village. And this was considered merciful punishment because they could have whipped her or branded her. Source: the Branks was also used for women convicted of petty offenses, breach of the peace, street fights, and abusive language. So, said something mean to a neighbor, and stole a wallet, basically the same thing, just with a piece of iron attached. Archaeological fact: in the Leeds Museum, there is a Branks collected by historian Norison Scatchard, 1,781,853. It entered the museum's collection in times 1,863, and it's still there today. So here's the iron that witnessed shame. And it kept quiet, longer than those who wore it. Listen, after I read all of this, I sat here for half an hour, just processing. You know what's truly horrifying? It's not the iron, it's how easily neighbors, friends, even priests agreed that this was normal. She deserved it, talks too much, doesn't respect her husband, got what was coming. And it worked. Women started to shut up. They were afraid to speak loudly, afraid to argue, afraid their neighbor would report them. Source: in the Lanark Court Records, Scotland, 1653, it says word for word, "If the aforementioned Elizabeth is ever caught swearing or causing scandals, she shall be placed on the throne in the Branks and banished from the town." Thrown the iron mask. Banished, you are never coming back. Great system, right? No prisons, no executioners. Just a piece of iron, public shame, and silence. Saving money on electricity. And on conscience. Here's what got me. In times 1856, the Branks was still used in Bolton-le-Moors, Lancashire. Source: as late as 1856, the Branks was used in Bolton-le-Moors, Lancashire. So, when London already had its first department stores and trains ran on schedules, some woman could still be dressed in an iron mask and paraded in the town square. Well, well, well.
Did you think that was all?
So, the classic story about harsh but fair punishments? Yeah, out the window. Women weren't just punished for gossip. They were taught to be silent, with iron, with pain, with shame. And it worked for decades, because there was always a neighbor ready to say, she deserved it. Source: the Branks was never an officially sanctioned punishment. But town councils, lords of the manor, church courts, and baronial courts took it upon themselves to use it. Convenient, isn't it? Men write the laws, men judge, men forge the iron, and women keep quiet. But hey, historically accurate. Where can you see a Branks today? Source: examples are held at the Ashmolean Museum, Oxford. The National Museum of Antiquities of Scotland, Edinburgh. The towns of Lichfield, Shrewsbury, Leicester, and Chester. And the Leeds Museum, inventory number in the collection since times 1863. So if you're ever in England, go see it. The iron is still there. The woman who wore it? Not so much. By the way, in the next episode, I'm going to tell you about the perverted Duke. Now that's a circus. He's accused of outrageous cynicism and psychological abuse. Can you imagine? Okay, I'm going to pour myself more coffee. And you think about this. If you were put in an iron mask tomorrow for talking too loudly, who would be the first to say she deserved it? This is Svetlana. Channel: The Archive of Hidden Facts with a Smile. Segment: Hidden Facts in History, 10th to 19th Century. Subscribe and check out the playlists. See you next time.